In the middle of a heavy downpour, a couple walked as if it were a sunny day in the park. As they neared the river, the man mentioned it was known as the true man-eating river. Leaning on his arm, the woman beside him called out for the sensei to leave. They then tied a rope connecting their wrists, and the man declared they would be together forever. Suddenly, our one and only truck-kun barreled down the muddy road and helped the couple achieve their dreams. On that day, a renowned author and his lover left this world. After the tragedy, the man woke up in an unfamiliar sanctuary, looking around with a strange disinterest at his foiled plan. Observing a statue of an angel, he deduced that this was the afterlife. However, a woman suddenly appeared and explained that this was not the final destination for the dead. She then introduced herself as Annette and explained that this was a place called Zauberberg, a harsh world surrounded by darkness. According to her, the newly deceased man was chosen to enter this land to become a hero who must bring light and hope. Showing no motivation, the man realized that not only had he failed in his plan to pass alongside his lover, but he had also been brought to this strange place without his consent. With a slight laugh, he put his hand on his head and remarked that his life had always been a great shame. Annette, without patience for his drama, warned him of an urgent mission. However, the hero had swallowed several sedatives to end his life. Desperate, Annette detoxified him with her magic, although he didn't appreciate it much. She then ordered him to rise and fulfill his destiny of saving this world, but the renowned author wanted nothing to do with heroism, stating that he just wanted to die. As Annette fumed, explaining that he was the chosen one, the man gathered the sedatives from the ground, swallowed a few, and laughed sarcastically, emphasizing that he hadn't asked to be chosen for anything. Annette then asked if he had been visited by a truck. Remembering the accident, he said yes. She soon explained that it was the selection truck for the otherworld, running over potential heroes. Among all the depressed people on Earth, only those crushed by truck-kun tires could start afresh and build a life worth living in this world of adventures. However, in the author's mind, his only chance of happiness was to pass with his beloved, and this elf with a pope hat had ruined everything. Internally, Annette cursed the man for his ingratitude, but she was sure he would change his mind when he saw the status he had gained in this place, since every human brought here received superhuman abilities. But when she saw his status, he was a complete weakling with a mere 1 point of life and poisoned. Not wanting to let it go, Annette searched every corner of his status for any special ability she might have missed. However, all she found were packs of cigarettes, sedatives, and a notebook with a pen in the inventory. It was then when she realized that the man was indeed a human trash with lung cancer. The man, not disappointed as he had no expectations, turned his back and announced he was leaving. Feeling guilty, Annette grabbed his wrist and apologized, assuming they might have brought him by mistake, given that he was extremely weak. She made it clear that he would not survive in this world. But once again, he laughed and replied that this had always been his life, whether in his original world or now. Not wanting to leave the human alone, Annette asked him to stay inside for now, as going out would expose him to many dangers. However, the sensei didn't expect to live on, as he wouldn't mind giving up everything to never exist again. Saying this, he turned and left while the guide watched with teary eyes, noting that this human was different from the others. There was a time when Annette took pride in guiding inhabitants from another world, welcoming people with open arms and getting excited to meet all kinds of folks from alternate realities. That was until one day she received an arrogant boy, one of those employees exploited to the bone by his company. The idea of becoming a hero went to his head. The kid bragged about everything he did, and every time Annette found herself praising his performance without thinking that maybe she had become just a hero worshiper instead of a woman guiding the representatives of light in this world. To reverse this situation, she asked Sensei to at least find a profession before leaving. He turned with a smirk and informed her that he was already a born writer, nothing more, nothing less. He said goodbye to the girl with the pretty ears and left for good. As the sanctuary gate closed, Annette was sure she had been waiting for this man to arrive. Instead of a thrush or a vulture in this world, fierce and aggressive dragons flew in the skies. Beneath them on the ground walked the depressive writer who didn't understand a single thing written on the direction signs. As if that weren't enough, he had no doubt that he would never find a cup of coffee around there. Out of nowhere, some internal system alerted that he had discovered the landmark Great Plains of Erston, earning him 5 experience points. With a terrible headache, Sensei asked the voice to stop talking inside his ear, but the system then announced that he had leveled up to level 2, using a noisy heroic symphony in the background. Not long after, he noticed the presence of a death tree holding a girl hostage, and she begged the adventurer for help, assuming that's what he was, of course. However, the writer didn't lift a finger. He just observed, noting that today was the day he met people with strange ears. Regardless, he acknowledged that women on the brink of death have a unique charm, so he asked the girl if he could write a romance based on her. She screamed to be saved again, and he finally realized she needed help. He stretched his arms up to grab her, but his height wasn't enough. The girl then asked if he had a sword or spell, but just as he was about to answer, Sensei was also grabbed by the death tree. At least he was relieved it was by the neck because it cut off his air supply. With little time left, he said it was a pleasure to meet her, but she didn't feel the same. Pleasure is something they wouldn't experience when the tree used its suction to steal their life force. In other words, they had only a few minutes to live. Hanging by his neck, this was the sole thing that Sensei had prayed for. As he felt weaker, he sang the song, "I Have to Go Now," until his neck bent forward in his final moments. However, ominous energy soon escaped his body, spreading through the death tree's branches until it consumed the entire structure, causing an explosion that freed them both. While Sensei lamented his survival, the system announced that 300 damage had been inflicted by the adventurer's poison. To make his headache worse, the symphony returned to announce another level up. Curious about all this, the cat girl asked what his deal was because he pretended to be weak, yet after what just happened, he clearly had some sophisticated tricks up his sleeve. He didn't answer her question and just reflected that for the 5th time he had asked for death, death did not come. The girl then says she doesn't know why the guy is depressed, but she's happy that he survived, so she thanks him for the help, invites him to her home, and asks the adventurer's name. He then introduces himself as Osamu, but is usually known as Sensei. But when the man feels his hand being pulled by the girl, he immediately remembers Sakin, who said the exact same thing when they were about to swim in the river. Thinking about this, he wonders if Sakin also came to this world. Repeating his beloved's name over and over, the cat girl thinks he's calling her by that name and tries to correct him by telling her real name. But all Sensei does is repeat Sakin's name. With the arrival of the breeze, the writer finds a reason to live amidst this insanity, stating that he will find Sakin wherever she is. With the red string tied around his wrist, he intends to reunite with the woman of his life so they can continue the plan that went wrong last time. Meanwhile, Anik prays to the gods of Zauberberg to protect this adventurer, hoping to meet him again one day. Contrary to her expectations, her wish is granted sooner than she imagined because Sensei is opening the door at that very moment. Excited, even though she met the guy 20 minutes ago, she runs to him as if he returned from war after 4 years of marriage. However, the cat girl shows up behind him, killing the mood. Not wanting to be involved, Sensei announces he's looking for a lady named Sakin, driving the guide crazy with each new woman entering the story. However, Annette says she has no idea who that is, so Sensei sets off on his quest without a single clue. The cat girl reassures him that she's sure the lady is somewhere around. And since it's still a long way to her house, she invites her companion to make a stop in the city of Roth Castle. With that, she pulls Sensei by the arm and Annette immediately shows up to teach the feline a lesson, saying it's absurd to hold a man's hand in public. Confused, the cat girl asks why this woman is following them, but the guide has no answer. With that, the short girl assumes Annette has her eye on Sensei, driving Annette crazy trying to justify herself in every possible way, emphasizing that her job is to guide the inhabitants of the other world. Hearing this, the cat girl discovers Sensei is not from this planet, which explains why he's so strong. Annette is confused because his stats say otherwise. The girl then explains that Sensei killed the Tree of Life with a single attack and saved her life. Imagining that her rescue created an intimate bond between them, Annette starts feeling sick with jealousy, kneeling and exuding a dark aura while cursing the cat girl. Ignoring the drama, Sensei finds a perfect bed for himself and announces he's going to take a nap and to wake him when they reach the city. He bids farewell to Annette and Tama before closing the coffin. The cat girl complains that's not her name, making the guide laugh and boasts she was called by the correct name. The journey truly begins with Annette pulling Sensei's coffin by a rope. In the late afternoon, in a palace located somewhere in this unknown world, a young maiden gazes at the beautiful sea view from a balcony. The scene shifts back to the girls who had been dragging their sensei for so long that the cat girl lost her patience and demanded he walk on his own. When there was no response, Annette checked if he had died, but his status showed he was merely napping. Since they were near their destination, the elf asked Tama to carry the coffin again, causing the cat girl to complain once more that that wasn't her name. Inside the coffin, Sensei dreamed of holding his beloved Sachin in his arms again, eager to continue what they had started. Eventually, the group arrived in the city of Roth, where Sensei began to realize he was in an entirely different world. This revelation sparked his artistic imagination with all the things he could never have envisioned. But amidst this, Annette announced that she would request an audience with the king. In the throne room, the supreme ruler of Roth introduced himself as Thomas, alongside his daughter Charlotte. The king then offered the group accommodations in the castle for the night, which pleased the travelers, but there was a condition. He loved hearing stories from travelers and wished the adventurers to share their experiences and memories with him. Given he had just arrived and wasn't the most proactive adventurer, Sensei asked if talking about sleeping in a coffin was enough, making Thomas think it was a death threat. To steer away from this topic, Annette remarked on Princess Charlotte's beauty. After thanking her for the compliment, the king informed them that Charlotte would soon be married and sought their advice on the matter. Before explaining further, he summoned two men to the throne room. He then introduced them to the two candidates for the princess at hand, the brave knight Gomes and Otto, the wandering minstrel of love. The king then explained that due to the influence of the Demon King, monster activity had recently increased, and considering his age, Thomas couldn't handle this threat alone, so one of these two would become Charlotte's husband and the next king. However, since the princess had not yet chosen her suitor, Thomas wanted the candidates to weigh in. After pondering for a few seconds, Sensei said that he had no idea, as this decision would determine the future of the princess and the kingdom, and it shouldn't be placed on the shoulders of strangers who had just arrived and were unknown to everyone. To conclude his statement, Sensei commented that Thomas was a terrible tyrant who didn't deserve the crown he wore. The two women accompanying Sensei tried to smooth over the situation, explaining that he came from another world and didn't know how to behave appropriately here. That night, the writer gazed out the window of his room until Annette woke up and asked if he was having trouble sleeping. Sensei then confessed that he never could sleep, leaving the elf momentarily speechless. However, she soon asked who this Saksheng he always talked about was. But before he could answer, the cat girl's tail poked out from under the blanket, revealing that she had been sleeping on the writer's lap the whole time. She then scolded the girl for resting on Sensei's no-no square, but the cat girl defended herself, explaining that she was protecting herself from the cold, which was customary for her kind. She further accused the elf of being jealous, which she claimed was the real reason behind Annette's outburst. However, in the middle of their argument, Sensei left the room to get some air and decided to take a walk around the castle. He found Charlotte on the balcony where she spent most of her days, gazing at the moonlit water. Sensei then approached and commented on the beauty of the landscape, saying that the lake was so lovely it made him want to drown in it. Charlotte expressed her shock at his morbid comment, which made Sensei laugh, noting that she cared more about his life than he did. Changing the subject, Charlotte confessed her dilemma about choosing between Gomes and Otto, explaining that the knight, despite being a recent arrival in the kingdom, was beloved by everyone and had gained authority among the soldiers, earning the king's trust. For these reasons, she felt she should choose him. However, Otto was her childhood friend who sang songs that comforted her whenever she felt down. Sensei observed that Charlotte was a kind-hearted girl who cared about her father. Unlike her, his life had been a disaster, with multiple suicide attempts deeply affecting his parents. However, throughout his life, he had never asked anyone to decide how he should live. He advised Charlotte to follow her own desires. The next day, the king gathered the group of travelers in the throne room to witness his daughter's decision regarding her marriage. Annette also remarked that for the good of the kingdom, the young woman would surely choose Gomes, while the cat girl thought the musician suited the princess better. But at that moment, Thomas asked his daughter to stand before the chosen man and make her vows. She slowly walked up to Sensei, took his hand, and declared that she would end her life with him. Everyone was shocked by her declaration, and Annette even fainted. Charlotte explained that, as she had mentioned the previous day, Otto sang to her when she was depressed, but he also sang when she was fine, sometimes annoying her all night with a new song. She didn't want to marry Gomes either because he was smelly. Desperate, Thomas urged his daughter to choose one of the men offered to her. However, she stood her ground, condemning her father's attempt to force her into marriage without considering her feelings. She stated that she didn't want to marry at all, and only Sensei had asked her what she wanted to do with her life. Amid this, Gomes revealed why he had an unpleasant odor. He then removed his armor, revealing himself to be a minotaur, a servant of the Demon King of Wrath. His plan had been to marry the princess, ascend to the throne, and then deliver her to his master. Sensei then asked if she had realized he was a monster, but she had only sensed his stinky smell. Embarrassed, the Minotaur declared that he no longer needed to ascend the throne and would simply kill everyone. As the cat girl attempted to wake Annette, the kingdom's guards engaged the monster but were swiftly defeated. A pillar, shattered by the Minotaur's punch, nearly collapsed onto Annette, but the cat girl rescued her just in time. She retaliated with a knee to the giant bull's face, demonstrating that she wouldn't fall as easily as the soldiers. Otto then played a tune which gave the cat girl the illusion of being empowered, but the music actually did nothing. The Minotaur then attacked with his horns, but she evaded and struck him once more. Despite her initial upper hand, the cat girl was struck by the enemy's horn, which was incredibly strong and sharp. Seizing this opportunity, the Minotaur declared he would summon all his strength for the next blow. However, Sensei interrupted the battle, mocking the monster by calling him a little cow and instructing him to assist him in ending his life. After all, the princess had just rid herself of her foolish father, and the little cow's magnificent horns seemed the most stylish route to the afterlife. Everyone was shocked by Sensei's approach except the Minotaur, who agreed enthusiastically. He then announced his intention to kill the king, everyone in the room, all the kingdom's citizens, and finally burn everything to ashes. While Charlotte appeared distressed by this, Sensei remarked that it was fine by him since he wouldn't be alive anyways. The Minotaur wished the couple well in the afterlife and charged at them. But on the brink of death, Charlotte wept and resolved to live and protect her people. Hearing this, Sensei commented on the princess's kindness as he had imagined and then pushed her out of the horn's path, declaring she wasn't suitable to be his death partner. At that moment, Annette woke up and conjured a strong light barrier that blocked the Minotaur's attack. The elf vowed never to let Sensei die as long as she was around. Besides blocking the attack, the level 18 cleric managed to break the enemy's powerful horn, impressing even the cat girl. Calling the cat girl Tama, Annette asked her to play her part. She then charged at the giant bull with a wild cat strike, sending the massive creature flying out of the castle, destroying the wall and plunging him into the lake. As the adrenaline wore off, Tama awkwardly thanked Annette for saving her life. She then smiled and also thanked Tama for saving her. Behind them, Otto declared he would turn their friendship into a song, but Tama told him to run away. While Charlotte gazed through the hole in the wall, her father knelt before her, begging for forgiveness for not considering her feelings. In tears, the king pleaded for the princess's forgiveness, but she touched her father's shoulder and expressed her desire to be heard regarding the kingdom's issues and her life. They soon embraced and cried together in reconciliation, while Sensei remarked that he had failed to die once again. A day later, a soldier alerted them about the arrival of monsters near the south gate, prompting the queen to order her royal guard to eliminate the threat. Sitting on the throne with her crown, she remembered the duty of protecting the kingdom and relied on her men for this. Dragging Sensei once more, his two companions commented on the princess's boldness in becoming the ruler of Roth, but worried about a 16-year-old girl handling the challenges of governing a kingdom. Overhearing the conversation, Sensei commented from inside the coffin that the girl had chosen this for herself, so they shouldn't worry. He noted that women on the verge of death are beautiful, but those who rise on their own are equally wonderful. As they dragged him, Tama asked if he could walk on his own. But Sensei, distracted, admired the beauty of the blue sky that illuminated his deep, dark circles. Eventually, the girls get tired and decide to take a break so they can eat something. Our lazy protagonist emerges from his coffin, eager to eat, but they only have bread. However, Sensei would much rather have some boiled tofu, so Annette decides that they should look for some in a nearby town. The group is only a few days away from reaching Tama's hometown, but Annette would like them to make a stop at a temple. Normally, an Otherworlder arrives at one of the 4 temples in this world and then heads directly for the Dark Lord's castle. However, Sensei's goal isn't to defeat the Dark Lord, he just wants to find Sachin. This means that they have to visit the 4 temples to gather information on where Sachin is. Tama is shocked because this means that if they have a hard time finding her, they will have to travel all around the world. Annette doesn't even want Sensei to fight the Dark Lord because it's too dangerous, and Tama once again teases her for being in love with him. Annette denies it and explains that Sensei just gave her hope when she had given up on her job. Tama points out that Sachin might be Sensei's soulmate, so Annette admits to traveling with him to find this out. Tama agrees to go with them until they reach her hometown, but Annette's half-hearted thank you makes Tama realize that Annette would rather be alone with Sensei. Annette ditched her job, so Tama wonders if she will even be allowed into the temple. Annette isn't worried though because the head priestess of this next temple is a dear friend of hers. Besides that, Annette didn't just leave her post without notice, she sent her letter of resignation using her familiar. This familiar makes its first appearance by snacking on Sensei's head. Annette scolds the little monster but gets even more upset when she finds out that it didn't deliver her letter of resignation. Sensei points out that the little beast is pretty loyal for returning to its master, and he names it Melos. Melos seems to have taken a liking to him, but Sensei just wants to get more rest. Just then, Sensei must tell Melos to quiet down as he begins to panic when a terrifying dragon appears. Dragons are this world's most powerful monsters, and it terrifies the girls with a scream. Just then, a girl calls it Ryuka and tells it to stop. Annette and Tama are confused as the girl approaches the dragon, so they tell her to be careful. They are shocked, though, when this girl speaks a different language to the dragon and tames it. The girl assumes that Annette and Tama's group has already suffered casualties because of the coffin and recommends that they leave this incredibly dangerous area. Sensei emerges from his coffin, assuming it's time to eat, and the girls ask the stranger to forgive his rude behavior because he's an Otherworlder. Hearing this infuriates the girl, and she vows to eliminate all Otherworlders. She unleashes a power that terrifies the girls, and her attack must be blocked by Annette's barrier. Annette does her best to hold back the attack, but her shield is eventually broken. The group is badly injured as the girl's attack does massive damage to the area, and Annette concedes that the girl's magic is insanely powerful. The girls vow to protect Sensei at all costs, but the stranger brings them to their knees with her power. The stranger's symbol terrifies Annette even more because it's the symbol of the wrathful Dark Lord. Just then, the girls are shocked when Sensei stands, having had enough of all the dangerous behavior. He points out that the girls have nothing to do with this. Sensei reminds the girl that she's after otherworlders and that he is her only opponent. He tells her to do as she pleases and reveals that he's prepared for his life to end at any time. His friends beg him to stop, but it's too late as the stranger grants his wish and sends her arm right through his chest. The girls are terrified as Sensei collapses to the ground and the stranger reveals that her name is Waldelia. Annette and Tama faint, but Waldelia is shocked when Sensei reveals that he's still alive. He can tell that Waldelia has a lot of hatred inside her, and Sensei says that he can relate. Sensei notes that he has also been consumed by intense hatred before. However, Waldelia is terrified to see him still alive as he approaches her, and Sensei observes that her eyes look very sad. He wants to know why, but Waldelia's terror causes her to flee with her dragon. Uneasy about what just happened, she wonders who Sensei really is. A while later, Amelos brings the trio to the temple they were heading to. The priestess rushes to Annette, but Annette tells her that Sensei needs immediate medical attention as he is in really bad shape. The priestess summons every healer to bring all the healing potions they have. After some time, Sensei is fine and is seen shopping for poison. The vendor explains that the poison is most effective when thrown at a monster, but he is shocked when Sensei just drinks it. Tama is furious because he had just made a miraculous recovery, but the priestesses are glad to see he is doing well. The priestess Yisha explains that she hasn't met anyone named Sachin, but is more concerned about why Annette is traveling with an otherworlder. She is glad Annette quit her job because she is too pure for it, but she's upset to see her traveling with an otherworlder. Yisha hates otherworlders because they use the gifts given by the gods for selfish reasons. Just then, a strange rapping otherworlder named Kotaro tells the girls to stop arguing and have some fun with him. They ignore him, but Kotaro demonstrates his overpowered skill of mass production, which allows him to produce an unlimited amount of the world's currency. He offers to buy the girls whatever they want. Yisha gets rid of him, but he promises to make them pay. Yisha points out that all otherworlders are like Kotaro. Annette explains that Sensei is different, but Yisha can tell just by looking at him that he is just as destructive as the others. Annette still argues for him and points out that he changed her entire life. Just then, Sensei asks for money to buy some drugs. Annette casually gives it to him, but still tries to tell Yisha that he isn't destructive at all. Yisha is then shocked to learn that Sensei doesn't have a gift. Despite that, Sensei still fought against the wrathful Dark Lord for his friends. Yisha is stunned to hear this because the wrathful Dark Lord was actually destroyed by another otherworlder 7 days ago. Tama is just as shocked to hear this news, and the two girls celebrate because it means peace has finally come to their world. This makes them question who the girl with the dragon was. It is also strange that Sensei arrives 7 days ago, but Anna can only think about how that was the day Sensei completely changed her life. The biggest question is if this world no longer has a Dark Lord, then why was Sensei brought here in the first place? Just then, the girls are startled as Sensei tears up a bunch of papers. Sensei dramatically explains that he was trying to write about the events that have happened since being brought to this world. He was struggling to write, though, and is now despairing over it. Annette eagerly waits to hear what he wrote about them meeting for the first time, but her heart is shattered when Sensei reveals that he didn't write about her at all. Sensei isn't sure why, but his meeting with Waldelia gave him a surge of creativity, and he hopes that something else exciting will occur. Annette thinks he might find something if he explores the town, and recent events have made her want to buy Sensei some stuff anyway. In town, we find that what Annette wanted to buy Sensei is some heavy-duty armor. There is no telling when they will be attacked again, and Annette never wants to see Sensei suffer ever again. Tama points out that Sensei looks like he's suffering right now, but Sensei actually kind of likes the oppressive feeling that the armor gives him. The girls go to do more shopping, and Annette tells Sensei to stay there. Yisha finds him, and Sensei explains that he was just searching for new excitement. Yisha declares that Annette will be staying with her from now on because she has always been a pure girl and trusts people too easily. Yisha is sure that Annette will be unhappy traveling with him, so she begs Sensei to break up his party. Sensei just smirks and points out that it's up to Annette to decide what she wants to do. He declares that Yisha has no say in the matter and wonders why she thinks Annette will be unhappy. Yisha explains that it's because Sensei is an otherworlder and she doesn't trust otherworlders. Just then, Yisha is stunned and a crowd forms as a man arrives. This man is said to have been created by the heavens to stand above everyone in the world. It's another otherworlder, and his name is Lord Suzuki. Suzuki announces to everyone that the Dark Lord was defeated 7 days ago and tells them to rejoice as peace has come to their world. The crowd erupts with cheer, and they all praise the otherworlders. But Suzuki reveals his real intentions. He points out that they risk their lives to bring them peace, so it's only right that the otherworlders be allowed to rule the world. Because of this, he declares that this time will be known as the Great Hero Age. Suzuki has decided to be the ruler of this town, and his buddy Kotaro tells the townspeople to bow down to Suzuki. Just then, Kotaro points to the girls and tells Suzuki that they were the ones who messed with him. Suzuki is furious and declares that they committed acts of violence against another Otherworlder. Anna tries to explain that he is mistaken, but Suzuki refuses to listen to someone who would bring harm to a hero. Nearby, we see that the town is on fire, and Sensei states that he finally feels like he can write his masterpiece. The scene changes again, and now we see Suzuki using a special power to turn Annette into a pet. This change makes some parts of her body look different, like her eyes, which become black. Kotaro then uses a rap song to make fun of how easy it was to cast the spell on Annette because she is so innocent. Seeing this, Tama tries to stop Kotaro, but Suzuki uses his power on her too, and she becomes his e-girl, like Annette. After showcasing his skills, Suzuki claims that nobody can escape his power. However, Isha suddenly comes and tells Suzuki that he is using his power in the wrong way, noting that she taught him how to use it, as she did not teach him to do bad things. She then told him that nobody would listen to him, and all the people in the city agreed with Isha, which caused them to start fighting against Suzuki. However, this enraged this little monkey who sends his wolves to attack the people, citing that he will destroy the city and build a new one. Isha calls Suzuki some names, but he just laughs and says he is a hero, even mentioning that he wants to make Isha's church into his house. As the wolves attack, spitting fireballs at houses and residents, Vale begins to burn. But Sensei, protected by his giant armor, chills in his armor. But after dozens of kicks and punches, Tama manages to crack his armor, but she is soon knocked out by his helmet. Sensei then locks her in a barrel, warning of a violent cat inside. He soon sees Isha overwhelmed in battle and enraged, hears her lament how the Otherworlders misuse their gifts for selfish ends. She recounts that Suzuki was once a calm boy with a weak personality. Intrigued, Sensei starts writing down her story and asks where Suzuki went. Isha says he headed to the church but warns Sensei, who lacks a gift, that he stands no chance against Suzuki. Determined, Sensei insists on writing his masterpiece and Isha accompanies him. At the church gate, Sensei is enchanted by its beauty, while Isha worries about facing Suzuki's superhuman power without a plan. There, Sensei drinks a vial of poison, while Isha considers a stealthy approach. However, he completely ignored her and stormed into the church. Inside, Sensei expresses interest in Suzuki's story, hoping to write a novel about his experiences. But Suzuki, becoming more arrogant, welcomes the idea of an author chronicling his exploits. However, Sensei clarifies that the story is about a man corrupted by power. Feeling insulted, Suzuki orders his wolves to kill the intruders. Isha then steps forward, shooting rays of light to kill some wolves, but one grabs her magic staff, taking her out of the fight. Suzuki orders the wolves to incinerate Sensei, but he deflects the fireballs with his armor's helmet, causing a massive explosion. Turns out, the helmet reveals Milos, who deflects first-level spells as Annette had described. As the flames dissipate, Kotaro begins to worry that these enemies are stronger than they thought. However, Suzuki reminds Sensei that he still has a trump card, a giant wolf. Without delay, Suzuki commands his top pet to attack, and it bites into Sensei's shoulder. But to his surprise, the poison in Sensei's bloodstream quickly spreads to the wolf, killing it instantly. Isha heals Sensei, and Kotaro, panicking at the sight, flees. Isha demands Suzuki surrender, but he reveals his other ultimate trump card, Annette. He orders her to attack, and she draws a dagger, charging at Isha. The priestess, unable to fight her friend, prepares to retreat. But Sensei, however, takes the lead, telling Isha that Annette is stronger than she thinks. Suzuki laughs, confident in his skill, but Sensei believes Annette can choose her own destiny. With Annette's blade in his neck, Sensei tells her she is not a bird in a cage. Inspired by his words, Annette struggles internally, ultimately stabbing the dagger into her own leg. She collapses and Sensei catches her, returning her to normal to Isha's relief. Sensei then asks Isha to heal Annette, which she does, recalling that Annette is stronger than she had thought. After witnessing this, Suzuki's mask of arrogance drops, revealing his real fear as his main skill is dismantled before him. Impulsively, he grabs the dagger and nearly takes his own life, but Sensei stops him, meaning Suzuki alive to finish his book. Sensei then questions Suzuki about his story, prompting the boy to reflect on his past. But Suzuki recalls his life on Earth as a weak kid, unable to stand up to bullying and abuse. Treated like a pet by older kids, he felt powerless and considered ending his own life, but lacked the courage. His life changed when he was hit by a truck-kun, transporting him to this new world. Here, he was no longer a sufferer, but a hero tasked with saving the world from the Demon King of Wrath, armed with a powerful gift. Adapting to his new environment, Suzuki used his domestication ability to bring wild wolves to his side. Despite the promise of being a hero, he was treated maliciously, much like on Earth. This time, however, he had the power to react and refused to let the opportunity slip by. In Suzuki's mind, he hadn't done anything wrong. No matter which world he was in, he would always be a nobody with that determination. After hearing Suzuki's story, Sensei is satisfied with the conclusion of his novel, which he titles Failure in Another World. It tells the tale of a weak man who hoped to live as a hero, but couldn't even become a villain due to his own weaknesses. Sensei then thanks Suzuki for providing the necessary content for the book, but admits it can't be called a masterpiece. He soon tears out one of the pages and creates a magical circle to summon a transfer student. With the circle's power flowing in reverse, Suzuki is sent back to his original world. Shocked, Annette checks Sensei's status and notices that he now possesses the gift of writing. Isha believes this might be a special ability activated only against other transferees, suggesting Sensei was brought to this world specifically to fight these supposed heroes. Frustrated, Sensei collapses, dejected by his failure to write his definitive work. He wonders if he will ever find the person who will inspire him to create his masterpiece, but knows that day hasn't come yet. Despite having sent Suzuki back to Earth, Sensei asks what happened to him. But in another place, the wolves that were once tamed by Suzuki are now free, while Tama emerges from the barrel, confused. Meanwhile, Isha gives Sensei what he wanted most, a brand new coffin with impeccable craftsmanship and golden details. Isha then talks to Annette about how Sensei might play an important role in this world, and that his journey will be difficult and painful. Before Sensei leaves, Isha asks if Suzuki became the way he did because he gained more power than he deserved. As Sensei isn't sure if that was the main reason, but Isha fears Suzuki will return to a miserable life in his original world. Sensei, however, believes Suzuki has the chance to change his story based on what he learned and suffered in this world. Back on Earth, Suzuki submits his resume at the local market to resume a normal life. The interviewer asks why he dropped out of school, bringing back memories that justify his absence. Noticing Suzuki's anxiety, the interviewer understands it must be a delicate subject and decides to give him a chance, asking him to start his new job tomorrow. As Suzuki leaves the market, he feels the cold of the snow and the sound of the wind, extending his hands to appreciate the snowflakes melting on his skin. After Sensei and the others departed, Isha headed to the headquarters of the church to report the recent events. Upon arriving, she noticed her colleague, Wolf, sitting and drowning his sorrows by drinking. She was shocked to see him drinking so early in the day, but he explained that his job was far more stressful than hers. While Isha interacted with others like her, Wolf had to deal with dwarves whose smell he found unbearable. Before he could continue disparaging dwarves, Elton intervened, reminding Wolf that it was inappropriate to make such racist remarks at work, especially as a bishop. Wolf then offered a half-hearted apology, but also made a slight against Elton for being a goblin bishop when most bishops were elves. However, Elton took little offense and pointed out that Wolf was behaving worse than the dwarves he claimed to despise. This angered Wolf, who challenged Elton to handle dwarves all day and see if he remained unbiased. But their argument was abruptly halted as Cardinal Miller arrived, instructing them to stop bickering and take their seats so the meeting could begin. Once everyone was settled, Miller apologized for the short notice of the meeting and planned to start with regional reports. However, he noticed someone was missing. Before he could address this, another bishop stumbled into the room. No one recognized the newcomer, so Miller introduced her as Aria, the new bishop of the Western Temple, taking over for Annette. They all took their seats, and Miller asked the bishops to begin their reports. Aria introduced herself as Annette's replacement and reported that nothing noteworthy had occurred in her region. The cardinal mentioned hearing about Princess Charlotte inheriting the throne, which seemed significant, so Aria apologized for forgetting to mention it. While Aria was trying to avoid reprimand, the goblin bishop Elton interrupted to deliver his report. He stated that his region had been peaceful, with nothing significant to report. Next, Wolf reported on his territory, which was remote but stable, noting that there were occasional conflicts between dwarves, but nothing alarming. When it was Yisha's turn, she had dire news to share. Recently, an otherworlder had gone on a rampage in her region, destroying half of the town of Vale. She was working to restore the town, but on the topic of otherworlders, Miller had convened the meeting because of them. As he had informed them a week ago, the ruthless Dark Lord had been defeated by a group of otherworlders. In response, the Pope decided to seal the magic circles that connected this world to others. Elton was relieved that the battle with the Dark Lord was over, but a new threat loomed. However, the 7 otherworlders who defeated the Dark Lord had claimed his lands and sent a declaration to the Pope stating their intention to transform the world into a perfect utopia. This was essentially a declaration of war, and the Pope was troubled by their threat. The otherworlders were supposed to be angels sent to save the world, and he had genuinely cared for them. However, now they had turned against him, and the church needed to prepare for the impending danger. They also had to address the Otherworlders causing chaos in each region and the Dark Lord's daughter, who had vanished from his castle. None of them expected the Otherworlders to become the Church's enemies, and if they were united, they would be a far greater threat than the Dark Lord ever was. Arya worried about how they would combat such formidable foes, but Isha had an idea. She mentioned a particular Otherworlder who used his gift to send another Otherworlder back to their own world. The others were shocked by this revelation, but if Isha's theory was correct, they could use Sensei's gift to send the Otherworlders back to their worlds. Just then, the Pope arrived, surprising everyone and was thrilled to hear the news. He asked Isha to provide more details about this man. Meanwhile, in the Dark Lord's territory, 2 of the 7 Otherworlders who had defeated the Dark Lord remained in the castle, while the other 5 had set out to claim various regions for their new empire. The 2 left behind were eager to see what would happen to the world. Back with Sensei and the others, they'd finally reached their destination. Tama was excited to sleep in a bed again, but suddenly received a notification from her system that her level had increased to 17 due to all her effort. While leveling up was nice, she wasn't pleased with how it happened. For now, Anna suggested finding an inn for the night. Out of nowhere, a voice mentioned a good inn down the road. Annette looked up and saw a little boy sitting on a signpost. He had offered to provide information to help her navigate the town as she was new there. The boy informed her about a hero dispatch service in the town, where Otherworlders joined parties lacking confidence in their skills to ensure safety and smooth missions. The boy claimed he came up with the idea himself, but as soon as he mentioned Otherworlders, Tama had flashbacks to what Kotaro and Suzuki did and wanted nothing to do with it. The boy didn't understand why she disliked Otherworlders so much since they were the ones who saved the world. Regardless, he said that if they were interested, he could introduce them to an Otherworlder right away, for a small fee, of course. He asked for 40,000 for the introduction, but Tama declined, not wanting to waste so much money. However, Annette was more than willing to spend that much if it meant she could get a strong hero to keep Sensei safe. The boy thought she was talking about guarding the coffin and started giving a speech about how the dead guy would appreciate having his body protected. However, Sensei popped out of the coffin and told the boy he wasn't dead yet, though he wished he was. The boy was terrified, but Tama assured him that despite appearances, Sensei was also a hero. The boy didn't believe her and quickly snatched the money from Annette, promising to bring the hero to their inn later that night. Even though Tama initially disagreed with the idea, she admitted it would be nice to have a strong hero join their party since it would mean she wouldn't have to drive the coffin anymore. But Annette actually enjoyed pulling the coffin. Later that night, they waited at the inn for Nier to arrive as promised, but Sensei told Annette that the boy wouldn't be coming anytime soon. Hearing this, the innkeeper asked Annette if she was waiting for a kid named Nier. Upon confirming this, the innkeeper informed them that Nier was notorious around there as a young scam artist who had never even met a hero, so there was no way he could introduce Annette to one as he claimed. Annette was devastated at losing 40,000, so Tama tried to calm her down. Sensei wanted to know more about Nier, so the innkeeper explained that Nier was an orphan who appeared in town one day and had since made a living by scamming unsuspecting travelers. He was a nuisance to the town, but sometimes the innkeeper couldn't help but feel sorry for him since he had no parental figures and was all on his own. Meanwhile, Nier sat under a bridge staring at an old sword. Moments later, he was snatched by unknown kidnappers who took him to an abandoned shed and examined all the money Nier had swindled as a scammer. Nier asked what they planned to do with him, and the 3 men had evil intentions in their eyes. Nier tried bluffing his way out by claiming his hero friend would get revenge if they harmed him. However, the men weren't worried since they knew Nier had never met a hero. In fact, they claimed to be heroes themselves. One had a gift that allowed him to summon a powerful crossbow, and since Nier had carelessly used the heroes' names to scam people, the Otherworlder planned to punish him with an arrow to the head. Nier couldn't believe the heroes he admired were actually scumbags, but he resigned himself to his fate. At the last second, Sensei appeared, pushing the man's hand and redirecting the arrow into the metal man's knee. Sensei told them they had no right to call themselves heroes when acting this way. His words were ignored as the man with glowing eyes used his skill to analyze Sensei. To his shock, he discovered Sensei was an Otherworlder as well. This put them on edge since they didn't know what power Sensei might have. But upon closer inspection, the appraiser realized Sensei only had 1 point of HP left and was currently poisoned. This calmed the bowman, who believed he could easily defeat Sensei. As soon as Sensei heard the bowman say he would end him, his interest peaked and he started walking toward them. The appraiser panicked as Sensei's health stats rapidly increased. Sensei dared the bowman to shoot him in the heart. The bowman thought this was a trap and fled with his friends. As they left, Sensei was disappointed since he had hoped they would finish him off. Nier asked Sensei if he was a hero, but Sensei denied being someone so noble claiming he was just a man trying to navigate the world of adults. He advised Nier to preserve his innocence a little longer before ending up as bad as the rotten otherworlders. Sensei began to leave, inspiring Nier with his words. However, Nier soon panicked as Sensei disappeared from sight, realizing he had forgotten to untie him, leaving him stuck there all night. The next morning, Sensei and the others prepared to leave town to continue their journey. Tama noticed Sensei seemed sleepy and asked if he got a good night's sleep. Anna recalled Sensei sneaking off last night without telling them where he was going and asked if he spent the night with a woman or something. Sensei simply said he had an eventful night, leaving Annette in tears over the possibility that another woman got to Sensei before her. They were interrupted by Nier, who urged them to hurry up and leave. As soon as Tama recognized him, she demanded he return their money for lying. Nier maintained he never lied since he had indeed brought a hero to join their party, himself, although he admitted he wasn't very strong. As they continue their journey, Nier grows anxious because Sensei keeps talking about dying, but he's surprised that the others don't seem to be concerned about it. They eventually reach Tama's homeland, where they encounter a checkpoint at the front gate. Initially, Tama assures them that she'll get them inside, but as soon as the guards see her, they arrest the entire group and they end up in jail. Nier quickly realizes they were arrested because of Tama, suspecting she might be a criminal. However, Sensei is excited, thinking they're about to be executed. Nier manages to pick the lock, but Sensei becomes upset, questioning why he would do that. Unfortunately, the guards catch them in the act and they are recaptured. They are then brought before King Siberian. As his minister, Briard explains that they're about to be executed for their crimes. Anna is confused, so Siberian explains that they kidnapped the princess. However, Tama interrupts, telling him that it isn't true because she chose to travel with them. At this point, they realize she's actually the princess. She pleads with her father to release them, but he refuses unless she stops behaving foolishly. Tama then promises to be a good daughter, declaring that she'll stop traveling with Sensei's party, so Briard informs them that they're free to go. Later, Anna and Nier are seen enjoying a meal at a restaurant, but they notice that Sensei is depressed because he wasn't executed. They're still shocked by the revelation that Tama is a princess and begin discussing her when a girl named Fawn overhears them. She tells them that she used to work as Tama's servant. Sensei, realizing Fawn might know more about Tama's past, eagerly asks her to share what she knows, thinking Tama must be an interesting person. Meanwhile, Tama is thinking about her friends when she notices a man standing outside the palace. However, not long after, the man using his powers attacks the palace. King Siberian confronts him, asking who he is. So the man introduces himself as Kabara, one of the heroes who defeated the Dark Lord. When Siberian asks him what he wants, Kabara reveals that he intends to devour everyone. As Siberian's soldiers charge at him, Kabara uses his powers to consume them, only to spit them out in disgust, complaining that they taste awful. However, he mentions that he's eager to taste a young demi-woman. Seeing this, Siberian orders his soldiers to stand down and prepares to fight Kabara. Kabara attempts to consume him, but Siberian counters with his lightning palms. However, the attack is ineffective, and Kabara reveals that his body is incredibly durable because he recently consumed golems. As Siberian prepares to unleash his ultimate technique, he confidently tells Kabara that he will defeat him in a single blow. But just as they're about to clash, Tama suddenly intervenes. Kabara, excited at the prospect of devouring her, eagerly welcomes her challenge. As soon as she tries to join the fight, Siberian stops her, insisting that she can never replace her brother. We then return to Fawn, who reveals that Tama once had a twin brother named Leon. Leon was meant to inherit the throne, but he and their mother died in an accident 10 years ago. This tragedy plunged the Siberian into deep depression. Seeing her father in despair, Tama decided to cut her hair, intending to take Leon's place and ease her father's pain. However, her efforts only strained their relationship further. Back in the battle, Siberian tells Tama that she's a terrible fighter, but despite his warning, she lunges at Kabara. Kabara is about to devour her when Siberian pushes her out of harm's way, losing his arm in the process. Kabara taunts him, pointing out that Siberian can't use his ultimate technique without his arm. Enraged, Tama charges at Kabara, but Briard knocks her out and carries her away. Meanwhile, we see Sensei thanking Fawn for sharing Tama's story when Briard arrives with the unconscious Tama, explaining that they had to flee the palace because of an attack by another worlder. Suddenly, an explosion occurs, signaling Siberian's defeat. Kabara, now victorious, declares that he will rule over them as their new king. However, he horrifies everyone by stating that he plans to eat the women and children. Suddenly, a man bravely threatens to stop him, but Kabara quickly devours him, changing his mind and deciding to consume everyone. Chaos ensues as people try to escape, but Kabara's monsters block their path, trapping them. Sensei, observing the situation, thinks Kabara is insane and realizes that Tama's life would make an excellent story, but he urges her to take action, wanting to see how her story unfolds. After some time, Tama regains consciousness in Fawn's house. Disoriented, she rushes outside, confused about what just happened. Rayard explains that Kaibara has taken over the capital and is trying to eat everyone. Determined to protect her father, Tama decides to stop Kaibara, believing it's her duty. However, Annette reminds her of the accident that took Leon's life and how everyone grieved the loss of 2 royal family members. She cautions Tama not to risk her life as the people will lose hope if she dies. Annette reveals that they have a secret way to defeat otherworlders, and they head to the palace with Sensei and Mir. When they reach the entrance, 2 ogres block their path, threatening to kill them. Sensei, however, declares that he wants to be eaten, thinking it's a glorious way to die, and asks the ogres to inform Kaibara of his wish. The ogres are initially confused by this, unsure of what to do. Frustrated, Sensei urges them to make up their minds, and they eventually decide to grant his request. Once again, the group finds themselves in the dungeon, and Annette begins to cry, convinced that they're doomed, but Sensei tells her to stop, revealing that he has a plan. He then pulls out a lockpick he had saved and instructs Mir to work his magic once more. Meanwhile, Minister Briard entered Matilda's room intending to deliver soup, but discovered that the princess had escaped through the window. In the throne room, Kaibara contemplated which baddie to devour next, while a furious and chained Siberian stood beside him, bloodied and enraged. Soon, your mom arrived to share the tale of the human who wished to be eaten, but they were interrupted by Tama, who used brute force to overpower the monsters without mercy. Siberian regretted that his daughter had made such a decision, unlike the fallen angel of gluttony, who was relieved to see his most tasty dish before him once more. When Matilda was a child, she loved watching her father and brother train in martial arts. However, she couldn't participate because she was a girl, destined to be a princess like any other. Siberian was strict with his son because one day Leon would become king and needed to be strong enough to carry the entire kingdom on his shoulders. Briard also often remarked that Leon had a kind heart, but Siberian was only concerned with his son's strength. One day, he noticed Matilda watching through the window and scolded her for getting into trouble outside. Seizing the moment, Matilda asked if she could train too. However, the king insisted that she needed to know her place as a princess, saddening her. In her room with her mother, Matilda confessed that she hated her father for not allowing her to practice martial arts like Leon, stating that she didn't want to be born a princess. Seeing her daughter's distress, Palma hugged Matilda and urged her to listen carefully to what she was about to say. Whatever La Palma told her, it must have been significant, for Matilda now found herself in a life-or-death struggle against the fallen angel of gluttony, who boasted about using her father as bait to lure her in. Still, the princess swore she would defeat Kaibara with her own hands. Kaibara, the invader, planned to toy with Matilda before devouring her, using her father's secret technique against her. Ironically, Kaibara had stolen this ability and named it gluttony, perverting the kingdom's traditions with his arrogance. By consuming someone's flesh, the fallen angel could steal their abilities, and now he used them to humiliate Matilda, who faced death at the hands of her father's own skills. Meanwhile, Sensei was carrying Annette and Mir to an unknown location. The two wanted to confront the invader directly, but Sensei had another plan. As they entered a room, Annette noticed a painting and realized they were in the queen's quarters. Despite the elf and boy's protests about searching such an important person's room, Sensei was unconcerned with the consequences. He then called on Nier to open a locked drawer, revealing a diary inside. The scene shifts back to Matilda, exhausted and completely at the mercy of her powerful opponent, was humiliated by being defeated by techniques well known in her kingdom: the tiger's kick and the lion's blade, symbols of the kingdom's protector. The protector, her own father, now watched helplessly as his daughter was destroyed. Kaibara began to taunt her, echoing her father's words that her martial arts were useless. This statement triggered a memory from Matilda's childhood, when she asked her brother why he trained so hard if he didn't like fighting. That time, Leon admitted that he wasn't naturally good at it, but that was why he needed to work twice as hard. He wanted to be strong enough to protect his sister, mother, and everyone in the kingdom. This memory filled Matilda with sadness but also renewed her determination. Although Siberian ordered her to stand down, she was following in her brother's footsteps, refusing to give up. Seeing this, Kaibara was amused by her will to keep fighting, which only heightened his excitement at the thought of devouring this baddie. This moment convinced Kaibara that his miserable past life had been worth enduring. In his previous world, Kaibara was basically Elon Musk's son, with every material desire fulfilled by his wealthy parents. Yet despite the luxurious meals and comforts, he felt dead inside. This emptiness grew into a need to feel alive, leading him to unexpected violence. During a routine lunch, he attacked a servant with a fork but still didn't find the satisfaction he sought. His parents paid to keep the incident quiet, and Kaibara remained untouched, spoiled, and dissatisfied. On his last day on Earth, Kaibara attacked a homeless man, certain that he was the most miserable person alive. The thrill he felt when our one and only Truck-kun came barreling toward him was the only relief from his emptiness. In this alternate world, he could finally indulge his desires without restraint. As he prepared to feast on the Princess of Grunberg, his enormous mouth lunged at her, but Sensei appeared with his notebook, somehow stopping the attack midway. Kaibara, confused by the sudden turn of events, snapped his fingers a few times, but nothing happened. Frustrated, he demanded to know who this mysterious figure was. Following this, Nier and Annette quickly surround the fallen angel, with Annette warning that the person before him had the power to send invaders back to their original world. She urged Sensei to use his storyteller ability to write Kaibara's story, but Sensei refused, saying it wasn't worth writing about such a dull man who only wallowed in his own misery. Offended, the fallen angel, who prided himself on being a predator, unleashed a massive burst of power, isolating Matilda with brute force. He then vowed to eliminate everyone present before devouring the Demi's flesh. Matilda, overwhelmed with guilt, blamed herself for everything that was happening. She had insisted on fighting, tried to take Leon's place, and now felt responsible for the dire situation they were in. But when Sensei placed his hand on her shoulder, she asked him what she should do now. In response, he pulled a book from his sleeve, dedicated the story to Matilda, and handed it to her to read. As Tama opened the book, its pages magically flew into the sky. Sensei reflected on Matilda's past, realizing that she had suppressed her true feelings because of her kindness and clumsiness. Throughout her childhood, she had been trapped by her father's vision of what an ideal princess should be. After the tragedy that took her mother and brother, Matilda tried to lift her father's spirits by stepping into the role of the ideal prince. But by doing so, her most sincere feelings remained hidden, never understood, until today. Instead of bringing herself closer to her father by imitating Leon, Matilda only created more distance between them. One day, her mother had told her who she should truly be, and Sensei showed her the page recalling that moment. On that day, La Palma had asked for her daughter's attention, telling Matilda that her life was hers alone and that she should live it as she pleased. Matilda had objected, saying her father would never allow it, but La Palma had smiled and promised to convince the king to give their daughter more freedom. After all, she emphasized, all her father truly wanted was to see his daughter happy. Since then, Matilda had found herself at a crossroads, torn between living as her father wanted or as the ideal prince in her brother's place. Struggling, she couldn't decide which path to take, but Sensei knew that neither was truly ideal for her, because she was Tama. Hearing the name given to her during her recent adventures, the princess saw the pages of her story shatter like glass, along with the chains that had imprisoned her. With that, Sensei told her it was up to her to write the rest of her story. Suddenly, the divine beast's crest then began to glow in Matilda's hand, astonishing her father. Leon had known about this hidden power because he had once seen the crest appear on his sister's hand. On that day, he had been about to run and tell their father, but Matilda had asked him not to, knowing that Siberian didn't want her involved in martial arts. As she reflected on this, she saw her crest weaken more and more. Siberian, who had been watching his children from the shadows, knew that the light had never appeared again because of his own fault. His excessive attempts to protect Matilda had locked away her natural gifts. And it was then he asked for her forgiveness. However, Kaibara had just finished digesting the king's flesh, boosting his power to its maximum. The fallen angel mockingly remarked that if this were a manga or anime, Tama would now awaken her powers, defeat the villain, and have a happy ending. But he assured her that wouldn't happen. With that said, Sensei eagerly awaited what would happen next, observing that while we are often deceived by hope, we are also deceived by despair. Even when pushed into the depths of panic, he believed there is always a thread of hope to cling to. Inspired by these words, Tama charged at Kaibara using a combination of the cat's distraction and the cat's headbutt, which for the first time managed to injure the fallen angel of gluttony. Enraged, Kaibara recklessly counterattacked, but Tama seized the moment to invoke her ultimate technique, the divine beast's banquet, King's Fangs. This powerful strike obliterated the enemy with unimaginable force. After the victory, Tama fainted and Annette slowly began to heal her companion. Sensei then returned La Palma's book to Siberian, who thanked the writer for guiding his daughter in this critical moment. However, Sensei replied that he had merely written his book. Briard noted that the princess had awakened the ultimate technique, King's Fangs, but that her power was still incomplete. Just as Briard finished speaking, Kaibara revived, much to his own surprise, taking the form of the gigantic body of a demonic insect. Turns out he had secretly consumed the flesh of the deceased demon king, causing infinite power to surge within him. He then raised his beastly form to destroy every living soul in the chamber. However, Waldelius suddenly appeared and decapitated Kaibara. Before dying, Kabara mocked the Demon King's daughter's presence, remarking on how delicious her father's flesh had been, so she ended his life with Gojo's purple. Sensei greeted Waldelia with sad eyes and asked if she felt any better after avenging one of her father's tormentors, but she didn't respond. Instead, she warned that she would eliminate the author next time before leaving with her dragon. Sensei then confessed that one day he would like to write the story of the girl who avenged her father's death, but whose sadness never faded. The next day, the heroes were thanked for saving the royal capital of Grunberg. However, Tama decided to stay at the castle to support the king, and although she would miss her friend, Annette respected her decision. Later, the princess received a visit from her father in her room, and he advised her to continue her journey with the comrades she had arrived with. He didn't feel so old that he needed the protection of a novice, but he asked her to return at the end of her journey. Tama didn't hesitate before taking off her princess dress and promising her father that she would one day be as strong as he was. As his daughter departed, Siberian took his wife's book and remembered her and their deceased son. Meanwhile, Sensei told Mir that he didn't have much talent for carrying coffins, so Mir told him to walk on his own since he wasn't doing so well. However, Sensei replied that it wouldn't be necessary. Just as he finished speaking, Tama came running to rejoin the group. After a while, the group comes upon the World Tree. Annette explains that the tree is sacred and offers protection to everyone who visits. She reveals that the town of Tanerico is nearby, describing it as a place where villagers live in harmony with nature. She suggests they visit the town. When they arrive, they're shocked to find a casino there, realizing that it was created by outsiders. The group witnesses people gambling and even killing each other, leading the girls to believe that something must be wrong. However, Sensei thinks the townspeople are corrupt and have chosen this reality for themselves. He then realizes he's out of his pills and panics, resorting to eating stones to cope. They go to the mayor to find out what happened to the town. The mayor explains that Tamerico used to be peaceful, blessed by the World Tree, until the outsiders arrived and built the casino, which attracted chaotic people from all over the world. He also mentions that the World Tree has started to wilt because its spirit is displeased with the current state of affairs. The mayor pleads with Sensei's party to restore the town to its former state, but Sensei is distracted, asking the mayor if he can get more pills. Suddenly, a warrior named Yamada, who reveals himself as an outsider, appears. He insists that he's different from the others and that he wants to bring peace to the town. He promises to help the villagers, and Annette thinks they should join forces with him. However, she soon realizes that Sensei has disappeared. We then see Sensei wandering around town, unhappy because he's starting to feel healthy and wants to find a way to ruin his health. He spots a cave that looks suspicious and decides to check it out, finding it filled with people smoking. Excited, he asks if he can join them, but a girl named Eshi approaches and invites him to her bar instead. There he starts drinking, saying he wants to drink himself to death because he's unhappy with his life. Eshi asks what he was doing in the cave, mentioning that the people there are addicted to leaves from the World Tree. He explains that he's out of sedatives and feels restless because he doesn't want his mind and body to become healthy. Eshi promises to help him relax, telling him she's a dancer. Though he initially thinks her performance will be boring, she convinces him to watch, and he soon realizes she's an excellent performer. Meanwhile, Annette is crying, worried about what happened to Sensei. When she sees him return with Esh, she's devastated. The mayor confronts Eshi, asking why she's there since the villagers don't want her around. She responds that she only came to bring designs to her friends. After she leaves, Tama asks the mayor who she is. The mayor explains that she's known as the Witch of Tanerico. He reveals that when the outsiders built the casino on the edge of town, the villagers were powerless to stop them, but Eshi chose to collaborate with them and opened a bar next to the casino. While no one knows much about her, everyone believes she's a traitor for profiting from entertaining the outsiders who visit her bar. Yamada thinks Eshi is evil and wants to take her down, which pleases the mayor, who calls Yamada a true hero. The next day, Sensei heads back to the bar despite Annette's attempts to stop him, telling him that everyone is preparing to fight the outsiders. Sensei, however, doesn't care, saying he never agreed to the mission. Yamada tells Annette it's hopeless because Sensei has already fallen under the witch's spell, but assures her he will save Sensei after they destroy the casino. Later, Sensei is with Eshi again, thanking her for helping him sleep. She tells him he should stop spending time with her because the villagers despise her, but he says he doesn't care. Eshi then talks about the spirit of the World Tree, which grants wishes to the weak and sick, and suggests that praying to the tree might help him. But Sensei insists that she's the one who needs saving, telling her that he sensed her sadness while she was dancing. A group of men suddenly storm into the bar, demanding drinks and intimidating those who owe them money, knowing the debtors spent everything at the casino. Another worlder named Sabu threatens to kill them if they don't pay up, forcing them to promise they'll do whatever it takes to earn the money. Sabu then reports to his boss, complaining that the casino's profits are down because fewer people are gambling. He suggests they relocate, but the boss insists on turning the villagers into gambling addicts and teaching them to smoke the leaves from the world tree. Eschi reminds the boss of his promise to leave the villagers alone, mentioning that she paid him protection money to ensure the other worlders wouldn't harm them. However, the boss dismisses her, saying he needs to make money, and orders Sabu to start kidnapping villagers. Eschi tries to stop him, but he shoves her aside. Sensei intervenes, telling Eschi she's not a witch but an angel. Suddenly, the ground starts shaking and everyone rushes outside to find that the casino has been destroyed. Yamada declares to the other worlders that he's going to take them down for destroying the town's peace. Sabu orders his men to attack, but Sensei unexpectedly confronts Yamada, stating that he can't stand people who act self-righteous. Yamada urges Sensei to come to his senses and focus on what needs to be done, but Sensei simply thanks Yamada for his opinion and insists he'll never change his ways. Yamada vows to demonstrate true righteousness and charges at the other worlders with his sword of justice, which instantly blows them away. Realizing they're outmatched, the worlders retreat. Yamada then asks Eschi if she wants to fight him, but she only thanks him for saving the town. The villagers celebrate, hailing Yamada as their savior, but they still harbor hatred toward Eschi. Yamada urges them to forgive her, but they throw stones at her and demand that she leave the town. Sensei intervenes, explaining that Eschi fought to protect the town, keeping the other worlders in check to prevent them from invading the village. He argues that she's the true savior and shames the villagers for their behavior, but they refuse to believe him. Heartbroken, Eschi decides to leave, apologizing for the trouble she caused. The villagers are pleased to see her go, but Yamada is stunned by their cruelty. He asks Sensei if he knew this would happen. Sensei replies that it's difficult to distinguish right from wrong and that he despises self-righteousness, as such people often believe they're fighting for the greater good without question. Yamada begins to doubt his actions, but Sensei tells him he's not sure either, pointing out that the town has banished its true protector. Sensei then leaves with his party while the mayor tells Yamada that the other worlders made a fortune selling the world tree's leaves and he plans to continue the practice. The mayor believes the world tree will recover now that the worlders are gone and offers Yamada 10% of the profits if he becomes the town's bodyguard to protect their business. Yamada falls into despair, realizing the mayor is just as corrupt as the worlders. Meanwhile, Annette wonders if Sensei saw the whole picture, but Sensei reflects that he's no different from Yamada because he failed to save Eschi. Suddenly, they notice the world tree drying up, causing the villagers to panic. Eschi reappears before Sensei and thanks him for understanding her. She grants him her blessing, hoping he finds peace in his life. Sensei notices his jar glowing, pulls it out, and realizes that Eschi, who is actually the spirit of the world tree, has granted his wish. The group soon finds themselves in a scorching desert, where the intense heat becomes unbearable. However, Sensei seems to enjoy the heat, though he might just be on the verge of passing out from heat stroke. Teima, overwhelmed by the heat, asks Annette if they really have to cross the entire desert, since there's nothing but endless hot sand ahead. Annette is unsure if they should continue. She wants to take the shortest path to the Dritten Temple, which cuts through the desert, but with the current conditions, she doubts they can make it without succumbing to the heat. As the group struggles, they notice that Nier is handling the heat perfectly fine. Nier then reveals that the heat doesn't bother him because he was actually raised in this area, so he knows how to navigate the desert with ease. This is a relief for the group as Nier can now guide them through the barren wasteland. His first tip for surviving the desert is that, despite the heat, it's actually safer to travel during the day. The night brings a higher risk of encountering monsters or bandits, making the daytime a better option, or so it should have been. Unfortunately, they still get ambushed by bandits. The bandit leader, another worlder named Toru, claims the territory as his own and demands a fee for the group to pass. Tama, already exhausted from the heat, is frustrated by this turn of events, but with no other choice, Anna tells Sensei to hide inside the coffin. However, the coffin is like an oven in this heat, so she changes her mind and tells Sensei to stay out instead. However, it seems Sensei has passed out from heat stroke, making him an easy target. Toru notices this and decides to go after Sensei. Seeing this, Nier stands to protect him, but he's too scared to draw his sword. Toru mocks Nier, pointing out that it's clear he has never held a sword before and reminding him that wielding a sword means being prepared to die. Toru, who has no qualms about killing, threatens to give Nier a slow and painful death with his scorpion venom. This terrifies the boy, but Sensei, unfazed, inches closer to Toru's scorpion, asking for the excruciatingly painful death instead. Toru then proceeds to stab him with the scorpion's venom, but instead of Sensei writhing in pain, the scorpion dies after injecting him. Sensei is disappointed that he's still alive, and Toru is devastated that his scorpion is dead. Enraged, Toru charges at Sensei, intending to bash his head in. while Nier is still too scared to fight and just stands there as Toru attacks. But before Toru can strike, a beast howl echoes through the desert. Toru's gang quickly recognizes it as the howl of a desert wolf and quickly retreats, vowing revenge for the scorpion's death. With the battle over, Anet begins healing the wound in Sensei's chest. Although they won, Nier is upset with himself for not having the courage to fight when his friend was in danger. Tama tries to cheer him up, telling him it's okay if he was too scared this time. He can handle it in the next fight. After Anet finishes healing Sensei, Nier apologizes for not being able to protect him. He blames himself for being a coward, but Sensei reassures him, saying that no one starts out as a hero, so Nier shouldn't be too hard on himself. However, Anet is concerned about the beast they heard earlier and doesn't want to stay in the area for long, so she asks Nier to lead the way. Feeling better now that he has a way to help, Nier leads the group to his childhood home, a place called the Was Orphanage. Nier tells them they can stay here for the night. As they enter, Nier spots 3 familiar faces he hasn't seen in a long time. The kids are thrilled to see Nier again, and the woman who raised him, Kathy, comes out to welcome him home. The group is treated to a delicious meal with the orphans. Nier is especially excited to have some of Kathy's cooking, which is even better than usual thanks to a kind stranger who has been donating ingredients to the orphanage recently. Kathy wishes she could thank the person, but she has no idea who it is. One of the kids asks Nier if he's become the valiant hero he promised to be before leaving. Nier knows he's not a valiant hero yet, but he tells the kids that he's technically part of a hero's party, which isn't a lie since Sensei is considered a hero from another world. Sensei, however, denies being a hero, saying he's just an author who writes stories. The kids eagerly ask him to tell them a story, and Sensei agrees, though Kathy stops him before he can start, not wanting him to traumatize the kids before bed. Later that night, after everyone has gone to sleep, they hear the wolves howl again, this time much closer. Kathy, terrified, tells them the wolf has been terrorizing the area recently, and the sound of its howling frightens her every night. To keep the kids safe, she locks the door and warns everyone to stay inside if they want to survive the night. Meanwhile, Sensei, out on a leisurely night stroll, comes across a scene of a horrific massacre. Back at the orphanage, everyone is asleep, unaware that Sensei is missing. As Nier gets up, he notices a shadowy figure outside the window. Remembering Kathy's warning about the wolf, he's scared but determined to protect everyone. Outside, Nier bumps into a man carrying a basket of vegetables. At first, he thinks the man is a thief, but the man insists he wasn't doing anything wrong, even though his actions seem suspicious. Nier realizes this must be the person secretly bringing food to the orphanage, and asks why he doesn't deliver it directly so that everyone can thank him. The man says he doesn't need thanks, he's content just watching the kids' happy faces as he spies on them through the windows. The man may be a bit odd, but his intentions are good, so Nier invites him to sit with him. The man asks why he hasn't seen Nier around the orphanage before, so Nier explains that he's been traveling but grew up at the orphanage after his parents died when he was young. A sword Nier carries belonged to his father. Now Nier dreams of becoming a hero worthy of wielding the sword his father left him, hoping to make the others at the orphanage proud to call him their big brother. However, finding the courage to take action is still a struggle for him. The man is moved to tears by Nier's story, telling him that he's a great kid. Nier, however, doesn't see anything great in himself. To lift his spirits, the man asks Nier to share some stories about his travels, and Nier is happy to oblige. Meanwhile, Sensei, who has been quietly observing, takes notes, finding Nier's story intriguing. Nier and the man talk through the night, and by the time the sun rises, the man is ready to leave. Nier invites him to join everyone for breakfast, thinking they'd all love to meet him. Although the man appreciates the offer, he prefers supporting them from the shadows, feeling he doesn't deserve any thanks. Sensing the man's sadness, Nier wants to cheer him up and asks if he has a bit more time to spare. The two head out into the desert, and with the man's keen sense of smell, they quickly locate an oasis. Together, they gather a variety of crops for the orphanage. Back at the orphanage, Sensei, tired of the kids' antics, retreats into his coffin to escape them. Anet and Tama find this hilarious, but their laughter is interrupted by a noise outside. They're surprised to discover a bounty of food left on the doorstep. Later that day, Nier is exhausted from the morning's hard work, but he's happy knowing he gathered food for the orphanage and spent time with the man. A little while later, Kathy rushes into the room with terrible news. One of the kids, Nate, has been kidnapped by Toru's gang. Toru is outside, threatening to harm Nate unless the orphanage pays a ransom. Tama is outraged that Toru would stoop so low, but she assures Kathy that she and Anet will save Nate, asking everyone else to stay inside. As they confront Toru, he orders his men to attack, and Anet and Tama engage in battle, though they struggle and could use some help. Nier, however, is paralyzed by fear again. Before he becomes a target, the man from earlier appears and pulls him to safety. Nier is in tears, overwhelmed by his cowardice. He knows Nate is in danger, but his body won't let him do anything to help. The man, haunted by memories of his own past failures, vows not to let the same thing happen to Nier. He reveals that he's an otherworlder who, back on Earth, lost someone dear to him because he was too weak. But here, in this world, he finally has the power to protect those he cares about. The man transforms into the very wolf that has been terrorizing the area and launches a ferocious attack on Toru and his gang. Seeing the wolf, Toru drops Nate and tries to flee, but the man, driven by a desire for revenge, is determined not to let him escape. The man's rage is fueled by the pain of losing everything to people like Toru, and he's ready to exact his revenge. Nier, realizing the immense pain the man has endured, understands that if the man kills Toru, he'll lose the kind person he once was. Gathering all his courage, Nier draws his sword and steps between the man and Toru, stopping the man from delivering the final blow. Toru tries to escape again, but the man destroys his scorpion bike. Before the man can finish Toru off, Nier steps in front of him once more, dropping his sword to appeal to the man's humanity. This act is enough to snap the man out of his bloodlust. He returns to his normal form, ashamed of how monstrous he had become. Nier offers him a comforting hand, reassuring him that everything is okay. They all return to the orphanage, where the man shares his story. The man explains that he lost his parents at a young age and lived alone for most of his life. One day, a kind boy reached out to him offering friendship and warmth. But their happiness was short-lived as the boy was later cornered and beaten by bullies. The man witnessed the attack, but knowing he couldn't do anything, fled the scene. It was then that he was struck by Truck-kun. Sensei, with his ability activated, clarifies that although he considers the man a coward, he's still much kinder than most. Even with the power of his gift, the man chose to use it only to scare off evildoers rather than give in to its dark allure. As the man is about to be sent back to Earth, he tells everyone how glad he is to have met them. Moments later, he vanishes and wakes up back on Earth, just as Truck-kun is leaving. Looking up, he sees the kind boy approaching to check on him, and he breaks down in tears, grateful to see him again. The scene then shifts to Sachin at the Dark One's castle when a man approaches her, asking if she's heard the news about Kaibara. He explains that Kaibara's conquest of Grun has failed and Sengoku is also struggling in the desert. He comments that this outcome was somewhat expected since dwarven strongholds are notoriously impregnable, and they've underestimated their ally. The scene then shifts to the dwarves battling the army of the fallen angel of misery. Wolf is drinking on the battlefield, prompting Usha to advise him to stop, reminding him that they're still at war. He dismisses her concerns, saying she worries too much, but she counters that his behavior isn't fitting for the commander of a nation. Wolf retorts that he's just a priest and notices that the fallen angel of misery has issued an attack command. Isha urges him to do something as the lizardmen prepare to attack, and Wolf advises the dwarven king Doran to lure the enemy forces to the east side. Doran, however, refuses to take orders from a lowly elf and charges at the lizardmen head-on. After showcasing his strength, he dares them to follow if they want his head and leads them exactly where Wolf had suggested. Wolf muses that Doran is stubborn but loyal and uses his wind magic to conjure a tornado, trapping all the lizardmen inside. With the enemy forces retreating, Wolf decides to withdraw as well, but Yisha notices that Sensei has also been caught in the tornado. Wolf is shocked that he hit a civilian. Later, the dwarves celebrate their victory and Doran declares that the 7 fallen angels are not to be feared. He blames the church for the problem and says they should be grateful to the dwarves for handling it. The dwarves agree, but Wolf asks them not to criticize his boss too harshly, explaining that the Pope has a lot to manage, and they've been successful in driving off the fallen angels thanks to the dwarves' efforts. He also thanks Doran, who reluctantly acknowledges that Wolf has done a good job as well, and the two share a toast. We then see Sensei's party enjoying the feast, and Yisha expresses surprise at meeting Annette there. Annette explains they've been through a lot recently, mentioning they got lost in the desert, and that's when Sensei got caught in the tornado. Yisha inquires about Sensei's condition, and Annette assures her he's fine since he was inside the coffin. Sensei then appears, joking that it was unfortunate the coffin saved him from dying again. Yisha thinks he hasn't changed at all, while Sensei laments the loss of his precious bed. Annette tries to comfort him, promising to buy a new coffin soon. Wolf then approaches and Melos, seeing Wolf's familiar, falls in love at first sight. Wolf apologizes to Sensei for accidentally hitting him with his magic, but Sensei tells him to reflect on his failure to kill him properly, though he adds that it did provide a new near-death experience. Wolf finds Sensei strange but hopes he will overlook the mistake given the ongoing war. Annette is surprised to hear about the war, and Yisha explains they're fighting one of the 7 fallen angels. Tama proudly mentions that she defeated one of them at Grun, but Wolf doubts her, thinking either she's mistaken or the angel was weak. Tama gets angry, insisting her party is strong and points out that Sensei can send otherworlders back to their worlds. Wolf acknowledges he's heard of this and says the Pope is interested, though he doubts they need such power, as he's confident in his own ability to stop any otherworlder with his magic. Isha suggests he's had too much to drink, and Wolf excuses himself with his familiar following. Melos is sad to see her leave, and Nir considers Wolf a jerk. Tama questions if Wolf is as oppressive as he claims, and Yisha explains that he's Wolf, the Wizard of Storms, one of the world's strongest wizards, and the 7 fallen angels are no match for his magic and intellect. Meanwhile, the fallen angel of misery returns to the Dark One's castle. The man from earlier is surprised he was forced to retreat, but the fallen angel assures him he'll win tomorrow as he plans to join the battle personally. The man suggests changing tactics and letting the women handle it, saying he'll send someone who knows the Wizard of Storms well. He then asks the female fallen angel of greed if she's ready, and she confirms she is. Later, we find Melos and Sensei wandering the city streets. Sensei notices Melos looks downcast and realizes the flying furball is lovesick, missing the girl he met earlier. Sensei tells him that unrequited love is a wonderful thing and encourages him to enjoy his anguish, which angers Melos, who bites him. Sensei then agrees to help find the girl, thinking they are both foolish men wandering the world in search of a woman. He suggests they name Melos Love Femelos, a name Melos dislikes, but Sensei doesn't care. They eventually spot Femelos with Wolf, who is surrounded by women. The women invite Wolf to drink with them, but he declines, saying he has something to take care of. Sensei observes that Wolf is the opposite of him when it comes to women and encourages Melos not to be discouraged, advising him to pursue the girl until she notices him. They follow Wolf, who stops in front of a shabby house and asks someone inside to open up, but there's no response. Sensei, sensing that Wolf is also chasing someone he loves, decides not to eavesdrop further and leaves with Melos. The next day, the dwarves discover that they're under attack again. Tama and the others offer help, but Doran stops them, insisting that they are guests. He steps outside to lead his forces into battle, with Wolf supporting them through his magic. Yisha then spots a dragon approaching, which unleashes its breath upon the army. The dwarves are awestruck by the majestic creature. Yisha recognizes it as Jade, the Dark Dragon, a legendary beast once under the Dark Lord's command. Wolf, however, is unimpressed and disappointed that this is the trump card the fallen angels chose to deploy. He remarks that he has taken down dozens of dragons before and prepares to cast his magic. Doran then notices that the rider isn't the fallen angel of misery, but Wolf doesn't care who's riding the dragon and readies his attack. However, when he catches sight of the girl on the dragon, he drops his wand in shock as she calls him master. Seizing the opportunity, the girl grabs Wolf. Yisha tries to intervene but is weakened by the girl's power. The girl promises to kill Yisha later and flies away on the dragon with Wolf. Seeing this, Doran is confused and Yisha advises him to retreat. Later, Doran, Yisha, and the others gather for a meeting. They learn that Wolf has been taken hostage. Yisha explains that they've likely taken him southwest, heading toward Dritten Temple. She mentions that the girl called Wolf her master and wonders where she might be. Doran is frustrated, noting that their forces are now in chaos, with the lizardmen closing in. He regrets relying so heavily on that elf, and the other dwarves fear their castle might fall at this rate. Sensei then shows Melos that Femelos is heartbroken because her master is in danger, asking him what a man should do when he sees a woman cry. Sensei hints that Melos should know the answer, prompting Melos to head outside with Sensei to the woman Wolf spoke to last night, thinking she might have some answers. When they knock, the door opens to reveal an elderly lady, much to their surprise. Meanwhile, at Dritten Temple, the girl, now revealed as Yuriko, tells Wolf that this place holds memories for both of them. She mentions that this is where she spent her youth. The Knights of the Church spot Yuriko holding Wolf captive and demand his release, but she uses her power against them, telling Wolf that her abilities have finally blossomed thanks to him. Back at the Dwarven Castle, Yisha deduces that Yuriko might be Wolf's student. She explains that once upon a time, Wolf was more passionate than anyone about training otherworlders, but one day he suddenly stopped and drowned himself in alcohol. Tama wonders if this student was the cause, but Yisha isn't sure. She emphasizes that their top priority is rescuing Wolf and asks Doran to send soldiers immediately. Though Doran wants to help, he's unable to spare the manpower due to the current situation. Tama volunteers to take on the mission, and Annette believes that God guided them here to assist. She asks Sensei for his opinion, but realizes he isn't present. Nir informs her that Sensei wasn't there the night before either. Sensei then arrives, carrying the old lady in his arms, surprising everyone. Annette feels jealous seeing him with yet another woman, while Nir wonders if adults don't care whom they're with. Doran reminds them that they're in the middle of a war council. The next day, we see Tama, Annette, and Nir donning new dwarven gear. Doran explains that this is the best equipment he can provide, and they thank him. Sensei asks if the item he requested has arrived yet, and Nir is surprised to see him still carrying the old lady. Doran tells Sensei that the item is too specialized and their craftsmen need more time to finish it. Sensei is disappointed, questioning how they can call themselves a nation of craftsmen if they can't complete this task. Just then, the bandit leader from earlier named Toru arrives. Taman prepares to fight him, but Toru explains that he's reformed after Nier saved his life. He now runs a bus service during the day and guards an orphanage at night. Tama asks what a bus is, and Toru demonstrates his overpowered skill by transforming a nearby beast into a vehicle. He invites everyone to hop in but refuses to allow Sensei on the bus, citing the fact that Sensei killed his partner. They leave and Annette asks Toru to turn back, but he ignores her. Doran also heads back into the city, while Sensei holds a piece of his broken coffin, lamenting that it's the only vehicle for him. Melos urges him to follow, clearly wanting Femula's attention, but Sensei says there's nothing they can do about it. The old woman then speaks, surprising Sensei by asking him to take her to Wolf. Seeing Melos and the old lady so devoted to the ones they love, Sensei decides to help them out. The group arrives at the temple, where they find the incapacitated guard Hearts, but they are warned not to touch them due to traces of magic. Yisha informs them that Wolf is inside the temple, so they march in. Inside, they find Wolf in bad shape, but he is confused about why they are there, and Yisha demands to know the identity of the girl with him. The girl introduces herself as Eureka, an otherworlder who was once Wolf's student, but now people call her the fallen angel of greed. She doesn't want her time with Wolf interrupted, so she summons an army of my grandmother. A battle ensues, and Wolf begs Eureka to stop, reminding her of his teaching to never fall before an enemy. However, she ignores him. Despite the overwhelming number of skeletons, the group holds their ground. Tama is especially pleased with her new gear, which allows her to deal significant damage. As the battle rages on, Eureka reveals that the fight will continue until they fall, empowered by her gift, greed. She refuses to stop until she gets what she desires. Isha, convinced that Wolf treated Eureka well as her mentor, demands to know what happened between them. A flashback reveals that Eureka worked tirelessly to perfect her abilities, but Wolf eventually told her that her powers were unsuited for combat. He said it wasn't necessary for every otherworlder to face the Dark Lord and that she could live a peaceful life. However, Eureka rejected this, feeling it was vital for the Dark Lord to be defeated. Wolf recognized her dedication and believed her efforts would eventually bear fruit. Eureka admits that Wolf was an excellent teacher, and she loved spending time with him. Everything was going well until a new otherworlder appeared, Prodigy, who captured Wolf's attention. Wolf became completely absorbed in teaching the new girl, leaving Eureka feeling neglected. Day by day, Eureka continued to train hard, telling herself it was to defeat the Dark Lord, but in truth, she only wanted Wolf to notice her again. One day, when Eureka went to show Wolf her progress, she overheard him telling the new girl that she was the one he had been waiting for to defeat the Dark Lord. This was the final blow for Eureka. It was then where her power finally blossomed, but for the wrong reasons. In a fit of rage, Eureka killed the new girl, driving Wolf to despair and transforming Eureka into the person she is today. She believes her powers only awakened because of those events, so in a twisted way, she still credits Wolf for teaching her. Eureka combines her skeletons into a massive creature and confesses that she took an innocent life out of pure desire. She no longer considers herself human and feels the only thing left for her is to fall even further. Wolf screams for everyone to flee, but it's too late. Eureka has decided everyone must die. As she unleashes her final attack, Sensei bursts into the temple on a self-propelled coffin, courtesy of the dwarves who over-engineered his request. Sensei apologizes for interrupting and remarks that Eureka looks familiar. He instructs Melos to bring someone in, and Wolf is stunned to see an elderly woman. Eureka is even more shocked when she realizes the woman is the very girl she thought she killed. Sensei reveals that he's already heard the younger sister's story, and now it's Eureka's turn. Everyone is shocked to learn that the two girls are sisters. The old woman, Hikari, told them everything about their past. The two were a family of 3, and Eureka had taken care of her sickly sister, never leaving her side. Eureka pleads with Hikari to stop, but Sensei has already heard the entire story and is touched by Eureka's kindness in caring for her sister. Eureka attempts to silence Sensei, but his team steps in to protect him. Sensei apologizes, explaining that as an author, he can't die before finishing Eureka's story. Frustrated by being called a kind older sister, Eureka reveals her true feelings. She always hated Hikari for stealing her youth. She got no life of her own because of her sister's needs, so when she came to this new world, she thought she was finally free. But when Hikari followed her here, Eureka felt like everything was taken away again. That's when she decided Hikari would never take anything from her again. She declares herself consumed by greed, determined to take everything she desires. Sensei calmly asks what it is that Eureka really wants, but she's had enough. She moves to attack him, but Wolf steps in, taking the hit. He apologizes for not recognizing her pain earlier, but Sensei tells him to step aside. This is a story of love that only he can write. Once again, Sensei asks Eureka what she truly desires, and when she lashes out, Sensei remains undeterred. He explains that he simply wants to understand her feelings. Eureka finally relents, revealing a painful memory from her past. She had been excited about her graduation, but her father ignored her, focused on Hikari. He left her to care for her sister, and Eureka, jealous of her classmates being celebrated, left Hikari alone to attend the graduation. Though she graduated by herself, she congratulated herself in solitude. That night, her father was furious. Hikari had nearly died while Eureka was gone. He blamed Eureka for everything, never acknowledging her graduation. Eureka just wanted to be seen, but that was the moment she met her end, hit by a truck. In this world, Eureka realizes her desire for attention almost cost her sister's life again. She breaks down, confessing that she never felt like a caring sister, only a greedy and ugly person. As she sobs, Sensei gently tells her that everyone wants to be seen. He assures her that she isn't greedy, just a kind girl who struggled with her feelings. At that moment, Hikari approaches Eureka and hugs her, apologizing for not realizing how much her sister had suffered. Sensei then reveals why Hikari was summoned to this world. After Eureka left, Hikari became lonely and lost hope in a world without her. Despite being an old woman, Hikari followed Eureka to this new world just to see her again. Wolf, watching this, realizes he failed as Eureka's teacher. A flashback shows how Eureka was happy to see Hikari again when she first arrived, but was worried about her sister's illness. Fortunately, Hikari no longer felt pain, and Eureka was relieved that her sister wasn't suffering anymore. Hikari had promised to become strong enough to defeat the Dark Lord as long as Wolf let Eureka live a free life. Hikari knew she had taken Eureka's life away in the old world, so she wanted her sister to find happiness in this one. Wolf finally understands that the sisters always loved each other. With this, Sensei's story of love is complete. Eureka's monster is destroyed, restoring Hikari's youth and everything that had been damaged. Wolf also returns to normal. As the sisters prepare to return to their world, Eureka apologizes for everything she's done, but also thanks Wolf for allowing her to enjoy a piece of her lost youth. Holding hands, the sisters are teleported away. Back in their world, Hikari mentions she had a long dream. Though she feels embarrassed to share it, Eureka reassures her they have plenty of time to talk. Smiling, Hikari begins to tell her sister about a distant world far different from their own. If you enjoyed the video and want more of it, please support the channel by leaving a like and subscribe. Let's help us reach our current goal of 20,000 subscribers.